Hello, my fellow oddities, and it's Superman time. This is not Superman, but it's the only DC apparel that I own. There is a Green Lantern in this movie, but it's not this one. I'm about to go see the new Superman movie, which has been very highly anticipated by DC fans and people online. It's the beginning of the new DC cinematic universe. I didn't particularly like the last one, the DCEU, which also started with a Superman movie, Man of Steel, that I also didn't really like. And that was the last solo Superman movie that we've gotten. It's been 12 years since then, and we finally have a new one. I have two big concerns going into this movie. The first one is how many not Superman-related characters there seems to be. Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific. Seems like a bit too much to add in all at once, so I hope they don't take up too much of the spotlight. And my second concern is David Corenswet himself as Superman. I know he's a good actor, but from that initial trailer, and I've only seen the initial trailer, I haven't seen any of the other ones or any of the clips that have come out since, he seemed very brooding and quiet, which I don't really like. I hope we see more of his personality in the actual movie. It kind of reminded me of Batman in the Batman trailers, just in the Batman movie, just aura farming a bit too much. And that works for Batman because it's Batman, but not Superman. And speaking of the Batman, my main hope for the movie is that this movie does for Superman what the Batman did for Batman. I love the Batman, top 5 movie of all time for me, top 5 favorites. So I'm really hoping that this can give that same vibe, because it's never going to be as good as the Batman. I like Batman more than Superman, just off rip. So unless this movie is like crazy good, then it's not going to top that. But yeah, I hope we get a good start to the DC cinematic universe, and I'm cautiously optimistic. So that's the last thing I have to say. Let's go watch this movie. Alright, I just got back from watching Superman. What are my thoughts? Well, off the bat, I want to say this movie is good. It has good visuals, cinematography is good, the writing is serviceable. I haven't thought about the movie too hard, so maybe there are plot holes, but it didn't seem like there was anything too bad in terms of just as a movie, how the writing is. Yeah, the score is good, the action is serviceable, wish we got a bit more of it. And firstly, I want to start off with the characters. The characters in this movie, the Superman characters, are super, super well cast. This is the perfect vibe that you would want for a Superman movie. Honestly, in the Superman parts of the movie, it's like the perfect vibe. David Corenswet, that concern I had, you can sweep that away. It's gone. He is great in this movie. He's not Christopher Reeve, but I don't think anyone's ever going to be Christopher Reeve. So he did a really, really good job. This Superman is a very human, emotional, vulnerable Superman, and I really, really like that, especially after Henry Cavill. I mean, Henry Cavill was such a good casting. Like, he had so much potential, but they just screwed him over with how Superman was portrayed in those movies. He was way too stoic, but this Superman more than makes up for that. He gets beat up a lot, and that's a good thing to an extent. I like how he's not like overpowered. He doesn't just fix things with a snap of his fingers like the Christopher Reeve Superman did. The thing I don't like about it is that he gets his ass kicked a bit too much, to the point where he doesn't really do a lot of badass stuff. Like, it feels like he's just, like, even when he's overcoming the villains, it feels like he's not really, like, overpowering them. He's not putting his authority over them. He's just, finding sneaky ways to beat them, which is also a good thing. I like how he's using his brains as well, but I do want to see a bit more bronze from Superman as well. But yeah, his Clark Kent is amazing. I wish we got more of that distinction. It's kind of just one scene in the movie where he's Clark Kent at the Daily Bugle with the glasses. He only wears the glasses for one scene. So I wish we got a little bit more of that. And speaking of, did I call it the Daily Bugle? The Daily Planet. Lois Lane and also some of the other characters in the Daily Planet are really, really great. They are super well cast. Lois Lane, that is the best Lois Lane that we've ever gotten. She's super likable, has super great chemistry with Superman. Same thing with Jimmy Olsen. They only get one scene together though, and that's a big problem I have just in general, is that these Superman-related characters, notice how I'm emphasizing Superman every time. We'll get to some of the other stuff later. These Superman-related characters and their relationships with Superman are so good. There's one scene where Jimmy Olsen and Superman are hanging out, and they feel like best friends. That's the only thing we get. And even with Lois Lane, she's like, not a co-lead necessarily, but she's one of the more major characters in the movie, as you'd imagine. Even then, we don't really get a whole lot of scenes of developing her relationship with Superman. We get like two really, really good ones, and they're really, really good, but that's not like the main focus of the movie, where I really think his relationships is what should have been the driving factor of this movie, with the other Superman characters and with his sort of bubble, his sphere. And if you're not going to do that, you need to do what the Batman did and really focus in on Superman himself and what makes him tick. And they also didn't really do much of that either, or at least not as much as I would have hoped. Ma and Pa Kent are barely in this movie, and they have one of the best scenes in this movie with Superman, or at that point he's Clark Kent. And it just sucks because like we should feel more in this scene, and for how much we get of those characters, it is a very emotional scene. But we don't get enough of those characters. It could have been even better if we did. I also really like the geopolitical themes. It's not an overly political movie where it stuffs it down your throat or anything. That immigrant stuff that James Gunn was talking about, that's always going to be a factor. That's just part of Superman's character, but it's not as much of a factor as he kind of made it out to be. So, it's there, but it's not like super prevalent or anything. What's more prevalent is the geopolitical stuff, where you have these two countries, one is invading the other, and it's pretty clear like they're just invading to go in and unalive people, basically, and that sucks. So Superman is like, I want to go save them, and that kind of brings up a question: does he represent the U.S. because this country that's invading is an ally of the U.S.? And all of those themes have very real world implications. And I thought that was very interesting. It's probably my favorite subplot of the movie. The most interesting aspect. I like that question that they brought up. Is Superman representing the U.S. when just going over and stopping this stuff and damaging this relationship? So, yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I thought they should have added more of that. I thought that honestly should have been the main conflict of the movie over the Lex Luthor stuff. And Lex Luthor is the next thing I want to talk about. At the beginning of the movie, he was really, really good. Like, he was smart and calculating. There's specifically one scene that I'm thinking about where he just gave off Lex Luthor vibes. Nicholas Hoult is definitely a good casting for Lex Luthor. But as the movie went on, he just got kind of more animated, and not like in a good way. He wasn't like hamming it up. He's not, I don't know, Jack Nicholson Joker or something, or Willem Dafoe Green Goblin. He's not like doing it like that. He just kind of gets annoying. He gets yelly, and some people do like that. Some people like him being a hater and stuff like that and playing up that meme. But I like a more calm, calculated Lex, and just didn't really get much of that. There are like two scenes I'm thinking of in particular. The one scene, which is shown in the trailer, where he's flicking the revolver. There's more context to that scene that makes it an even better scene, and I really like that part. Actually, there's three scenes. The first scene that I was just talking about earlier, that I can't really talk about because it's a spoiler. That revolver scene that I was just saying, and then the one scene, the clip that they showed for the movie where Superman busts in and he's like, "Where's my dog?" That scene was also a really good scene. But those are like the three best scenes with Lex Luthor, and everything else, it's mixed for me. There's also some interesting things that they do with Krypton and Superman's lore. Krypto is in this movie. I thought Krypto, yeah, a little bit ridiculous, and this movie overall is just kind of campy and can get kind of ridiculous. It definitely goes too far in some aspects, but, it's not the biggest deal in the world. I can find some enjoyment in some campiness in my superhero movies, and I know a lot of other people are going to really enjoy that. A lot of other people are going to really not like that, so I can definitely see where people really like this movie and really don't like this movie. It's really one of those movies you just have to go out and see for yourself. But back to the main point, Krypto. I thought Krypto was good for the most part. Some of his scenes do drag on a bit in terms of just like too much humor. But back to Krypton specifically, there are some interesting things. It definitely reminds me of the Batman. Like, I'm going to be probably comparing this movie with the Batman a lot. And it's very interesting in the way that they change Superman's backstory, his mythos. They change up what you think you know about the character and how he came to be. And so that was definitely interesting. Do I like it? I don't know. I have to sit on it a little bit more, but it's definitely very interesting. But yeah, the Superman aspects of this movie are so good, so perfect. It is the quintessential Superman movie for those parts. For those parts. It's not the whole movie. The biggest issue I have with this whole thing is that there is a decent chunk of this movie where Superman is out of commission, and that'd be fine if we were focusing on characters like Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, and maybe they're trying to figure out a way to help out Superman with their, puny little human brains and their not having supernatural abilities. But that's not the case. Instead, we don't. I wouldn't say we focus on the Justice Gang. That's what they're called. I'm not just calling them that. We don't focus on them. It's really just Mr. Terrific, but there's just too much of them. Like, basically, there's a whole chunk of the movie where it's Mr. Terrific and Lois Lane, and I just don't really like that. Like, Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl aren't really in the movie that much. Guy Gardner is kind of like the comic relief, which I wish it was Jimmy Olsen that was the comic relief. Like, he should have filled that role. And that's my main issue, is that these characters are filling roles that other Superman characters should have. And it just, like I was saying before the movie, it takes up the spotlight. They're taking up too much of it. And so you don't get enough scenes of Superman with those Superman characters that I'm interested in. I don't care about Mr. Terrific. He's cool, but I would care about him in a Mr. Terrific movie or a Justice Gang movie, whatever it would be called. I would care about him then, but I don't care about him now because this is a Superman movie. It's supposed to be a solo Superman movie, the first one in 12 years, but instead it feels more like, I wouldn't put it on the same level as Batman v Superman of just cramming up a bunch of stuff in it, but it feels like sort of like an Iron Man 2, where it just kind of feels like, oh, we're setting up too much stuff here and we're not getting enough time with the main storyline, which was the biggest problem with Iron Man 2, was that it had a really interesting main storyline, just like this movie has a very interesting main storyline and also some interesting subplots, but it's just too much time is taken to set up other things that I don't care about. I don't want to make it seem like I know more than the professionals or whatever, but it really feels like James Gunn might not have been the right choice for directing this movie. He definitely has good ideas, but I just don't think his style works more for an ensemble. It works more for the Suicide Squad. It works more for Guardians of the Galaxy, where these character relationships are all these characters have. I don't want to say all these characters have, but it's the main aspect. I don't know if he can do a solo movie for a character like Superman where I want to explore him and him alone and his sort of realm. All right. Like, James Gunn would definitely be better with if it was just the Superman characters, but I think another director who could also focus on the relationships but also just focus on Superman himself would be a lot better. And also, James Gunn he likes too much weirdness, I guess. Like, there's like pocket universes, and we've seen in the trailer like kaijus, and that's my other big problem with the movie, is that it feels like all of this stuff is just being plopped into the universe. And the thing that I like so much about the early MCU is that it felt like we were experiencing these characters while the world was experiencing these characters for the first time. But here, we're just plopped into the middle of the action so heavily. Like, there's scenes where these characters that should be, like, these human characters that should be, like, shocked at what's going on are just integrated just so haphazardly into, like, spaceships and stuff like that. Like, I don't want to get too specific because of spoilers and stuff, but like, they're just casually like, yep, this is another day in whatever. And I think it comes down to this. The reason that's a problem is because the DCEU had this problem, and the DCEU seems like it's having this problem of just starting where the MCU became, like, if that makes sense. Like, the MCU built up their universe, and yeah, now we're at a point where, of course, these freaking civilians are gonna be used to like crazy stuff happening. But at the beginning, it wasn't like that. And so, them with Superman just feeling like, yep, this is just another day in Metropolis or whatever. Like, it. And that's another big problem I have is Metropolis in this movie. Like, if I'm comparing it to the Batman, Gotham and the Batman felt more like a character in and of itself than Metropolis does in this movie. There are definitely good moments where civilians are helping Superman out, and they definitely make a point for Superman to save people, which is really great. But, like, it just, by the end of it, it feels like Man of Steel, where it's just collateral damage, where it's just desensitized to everything. It doesn't feel like characters, it doesn't feel like you're concerned about the city of Metropolis like you would be if they really developed it. They really, like how the Spider-Man video game built up New York City and made you care about these little guys on the streets and stuff like that. And another James Gunn ism that I really don't think works for this movie is his focus on obscure or irrelevant characters. There are characters in this movie like Ultraman, who isn't even anything like Ultraman from the actual comics, or like this other like girl character who can like use nanobots and stuff. Like, he introduces these super obscure characters that I just don't care about and gives them too much spotlight, too much focus. Like, I get that he likes to do that with like Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad, of introducing these obscure characters and making you care about them. But at a certain point, when the movie is just called Superman, I just want Superman characters. I don't want these obscure people that you try to make me care about. I don't care. And same goes for irrelevant characters, just basically like I was saying earlier, of these characters that aren't Superman characters that he's trying to give a spotlight to and trying to give these big moments to. Like, there's this big moment with Mr. Terrific. He has a big action scene, which is cool. It's cool to see Mr. Terrific on the big screen for the first time. I know he's been in TV shows and stuff like that, but on the big screen. But I want to see that in a Mr. Terrific movie, not a Superman movie. Another thing that I didn't like about this movie, kind of a more minor thing, is the costume design. I really don't like the Superman outfit. I wish it was more spandex and tight-fitting, but instead it's kind of bulky. It does, I heard some people saying it looks like the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 outfits, and yeah, definitely, like, obviously this is James Gunn's movie. Also, the outfits for the Justice Gang, Green Lantern in particular. I'm a Green Lantern fan. Green Lantern, my favorite character. I like Hal Jordan more than Guy Gardner. But I didn't like his outfit. It just felt too earthly. Like, I know people didn't like the CGI costume from the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern, but I think you have to have a good mix of the two where it still feels otherworldly, but it doesn't just feel like... Well, it feels otherworldly, but it's not like crappy CGI, but also it doesn't feel like too authentic, I guess, where it's just like, it feels like just an outfit that anyone could buy. It feels like something you just make on Earth. And also for Guy Gardner specifically, I don't really like that outfit. I wish they just went with something more traditional. Hawkgirl is okay, and Mr. Terrific is actually pretty good. But yeah, that's a more minor thing. But yeah, overall, wrapping things up, what I have to say is the MCU with Iron Man understood the assignment. Iron Man was a solo Iron Man movie, didn't try to introduce any other things. Iron Man 2 did that, but that's the sequel. So, you can set up the character in the first movie, and then, in the sequel, you can start setting up other things because you already set up the character. And that's the biggest problem with this movie, is that it just tries to set up too many things at once. And that's another thing with James Gunn, is just that, like I was saying earlier, he's better with ensemble casts. And when you introduce this many characters at once, same thing with the DCEU, when you introduce this many characters at once and don't give the individual characters enough time to shine, like how the early MCU did with each character getting its own movie, with the DCEU, they introduced, 3 characters? They had 3 characters before the Justice League movie, and then they just introduced a bunch of them in that movie. And so all they had was each other. All they had was those relationships, instead of them being satisfying characters first and then meeting up and making it even more satisfying when they meet up with the other characters who are already all fleshed out, and then you can have fun with the dynamics of those characters and the relationships. And that's a concern I have with this movie now and this universe going forward, is that I don't feel like I just watched a Superman movie. I feel like I watched a Superman and Friends movie. And it's just not going to be that satisfying. Now, I've already seen Superman interact with Justice League characters. Like, not just in the DCEU, but now this version of Superman specifically, I've already seen him interact with other superheroes. And now it's just like, it just doesn't give that same vibe when they finally build together the Justice League, and it's Superman, and it's Batman, and it's Wonder Woman, and they're all meeting for the first time. It's not going to hit that way. And it's always been DC's problem, is they're trying to catch up with the MCU without doing what the MCU did. And I don't know, maybe I'm overreacting a little bit, but this honestly feels like if the MCU started with like Iron Man 2. And even if you want to compare it to DC, the Batman, I understand that's not part of a cinematic universe, so it's a bit different, but the Batman could have been a great start to a DC cinematic universe because it just focused on Batman. And it didn't even try to set anything up that wasn't also Batman related. So, that's a little bit of a concern for a cinematic universe. But, just how well it was able to establish the Batman character, his city, his characters that are all around him, it didn't feel like that in this movie. It didn't do that. And that's what you really need to set up a cinematic universe. And that's the problem most cinematic universes have, of just wanting to be a cinematic universe. But you gotta be a movie first, all right? It sucks. I don't hate this movie. It's not bad. It's good. I liked it. I mean, it's hard to say that I liked it. I'm probably never gonna watch it again, but it's a good movie. And I understand that. I can't really say that I did like it. Like, I had fun with it. It feels like a Thor Ragnarok type of movie to me. Not in terms of, where it places in the cinematic universe, at all. This is the first movie. Thor Ragnarok was way later on. But if you're giving those vibes, that's not a good thing. If you're getting vibes of a later movie in the first movie, that's not great. But I just mean mostly in terms of just how fun it is. It definitely feels like a Thor Ragnarok type of movie. And that's not really what I wanted, but it will be a good time for most people. People who aren't like me, who are overly, I don't know what the word is, creative, who have specific visions in mind for what they want for things. You're going to have a really good time with this movie, probably. I would imagine. You're going to have fun. It's a fun movie. I would recommend you watch it. Make your own decisions on what you like and dislike about the movie. Just for me personally, and what I wanted to get out of this DC cinematic universe, it's really not a good start. And there's some other things that I'm not liking about this universe. The Green Lantern show looks honestly horrible. And just some of the weird choices they're making with what characters they want to introduce first and how they're introducing them. I don't want to seem pessimistic. This is a good movie, all right? I'm not a pessimistic person. I know it probably seems like I am, though, from everything I'm saying, but this movie was a disappointment to me. And maybe I had the bar set too high with it being the Batman but for Superman. Maybe that was too high a bar because the Batman is one of my favorite movies, but I've seen the same sentiment with other people too, even before the movie came out, before I saw the movie. And now what I've seen on social media, now seeing the spoilers and stuff and just scrolling through before I came home, I'm seeing the same sentiment with others, but I'm also seeing a lot of people really love this movie, and that's okay. You can love this movie if you want to love this movie. I just didn't love it, and I've seen a lot of people online just hating on people who didn't like the movie, and a lot of the time it is somewhat valid because sometimes they're just Snyder fans or people who just hate on it to hate, or people who think it's woke or whatever. And yeah, you can hate on those people all you want, but I've seen people hating on people like Angry Joe, who's a huge Superman fan, and they're acting like he's crazy for not really enjoying the movie that much. And now that I've seen it, I understand where he's coming from for sure. So I'm gonna stop rambling on. You guys get it. I didn't like the movie as much as I would have wanted. But I'll give this movie a 6.5 out of 10, which I know is going to be low for some people, but it's just honestly how I feel. And yeah, that'll do it for this video. Make sure to check out the links in the description to my Twitch, which I will be streaming on very, very soon, my other social media, and also my merch store. Also, give this video a like to show your support, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to know when I next upload a new video. This is my second channel, by the way. This is not my main channel. I have a main channel where I talk about Mortal Kombat and eventually other stuff, but right now, just Mortal Kombat. So definitely check that out if you want. Not forcing you to do anything. And also, comment down below your thoughts on Superman if you've already seen the movie. But that'll do it for this video, my fellow oddities. I'll see you next time.